Lost Story begins by introducing us to the new protagonist. I will refer to him as Mario, but technically you can change the main character to a female named Maya. Anyways, Mario recounts his past when Britannia invaded Japan, robbing him of his parents, identity, and his name. He's half Britannian and half Japanese, living the life of a Britannian just like Colin Kozuki. Mario declares that he will take back his story and ultimately his life. The story then continues 7 years after Britannia's invasion, much like the original anime. We now see Mario as a teenager attending Ashford Academy. His interactions with other Britannian students make him question if all Britannians are bad. Then we cut to Rivals and Lelouch, who discuss helping the store owner, most likely this guy from the first episode. Rivel, of course, runs into Mario, causing him to drop his origami crane. After his apology, Lelouch picks up the blue crane and asks Mario why he has this. Mario freaks out and runs away. Lelouch tells Rivals he recognized Mario, but doesn't see him too often. So just like Colin, Mario cuts classes. But Rivals and Lelouch don't spend much time on this since they have to help out the store owner. Since origami is a Japanese art, if someone recognized it, they might think that that person with it is also Japanese. This explains why Mario freaked out and ran away. After catching his breath, he thinks about the girl who created the origami, which gives us a flashback. During this, he told the girl that his father used to make origami and then expressed a desire to learn the art himself. The girl stopped him from trying to unfold the paper, instead choosing to teach him with a different piece of origami paper, already hinting that there's something important about that crane. After reliving this flashback, Mario goes to get a ton of food. So much in fact that the store clerk questions the unusual amount. Mario brushes his concern off and the store clerk then thanks his adoptive mother for her help. We learn that her name is Clarice Garfield. That means that Mario's adoptive last name is also Garfield. Originally it was Diesel. On his way out of Ashford Academy, Mario overhears a conversation between Millie, Shirley, and Nina. It's another perspective of the same conversation from stage 1. Mario immediately observes how casual the lives of Britannians are, which is a stark contrast to the lives of the Japanese that live in the ghettos. The lives of the Japanese are so bad that he admits to being a coward for choosing the easier life as a Britannian, but does want to do something to help the Japanese. After Clovis's televised speech, Mario then delivers the food to that child from the flashback. Her name is Hina, and she's one of 5 children who live together, with the other 4 being Ako, Yui, Mari, and Tomo. They all lost their parents in the attack 7 years ago. Mario is happy to help them, but doesn't think it's enough. Hina doesn't see it that way, and unfortunately, she isn't old enough to help the others with the shop, but Mario says she's done enough by giving him the origami crane. Hina then promises to teach him origami. We then cut to Lelouch and Rivals, who just left after Lelouch won the chess game. While they're riding on the motorcycle, they cause Colin and Nagata to crash. Lelouch tries to help, gets distracted by C2, then falls into the truck as Nagata backs out. To flee from the Britannian troops, Colin heads out into Glasgow to intercept their forces. During this commotion, Mario starts to get nervous. Realizing that Britannia was acting unusual, he moves the children out of the area. Meanwhile, Nagata crashed the truck in the tunnel. The honor guard then sends Suzaku and the other honorary Britannians to retrieve the poisonous gas. Suzaku gets to it first, reunites with Lelouch, and both learn that the poisonous gas was C2 this whole time. The events play out exactly the same as in the anime, where Suzaku takes a bullet for Lelouch, and thanks to Nagata's explosion, Lelouch and C2 get away. That same explosion scares Mario, who makes a snap decision to take the children underground, which is a safer route for them to sneak into the settlement where they will be safe. It's a rough situation where Mario is between a rock and a hard place, or in this case, the explosion underground and the nightmare frames above. To make matters worse, since the Royal Guard failed to retrieve C2, Clovis decides to wipe out the entire ghetto. The rumblings of the battle above terrified Hina, giving her flashbacks of her parents' deaths. Despite being afraid himself, Mario ensures Hina that it'll be alright. Mario then asks everyone to hide for a second so he can find out what's going on above them. Meanwhile, Lelouch and C2 travel to the other side of the building, but of course, the Royal Guard makes it there as well. Shirley's poorly timed phone call led to Lelouch's capture. The captain then tries to shoot him. C2 intercepts the bullet, then offers Lelouch a contract, and well, you know the rest. Mario at this time, while above ground, witnesses Britannian soldiers killing Japanese people. He then realized that taking the children to the settlement would be suicide, so he comes up with a better idea. Mario returns to find that the children are safe, but right before he tells Hina the new plan, tragedy strikes. An explosion occurs. Mario eventually woke up to find that the rubble from the explosion crushed Mari, Hina, and Tomo. We don't know the fates of Yu and Akko at this point. Mario then freaks out upon realizing that they are dead and experiences flashbacks of his own parents dying. After this terrible event, we cut back to Lelouch, who takes Valletta's nightmare frame using the same tactics from the anime. As the terrorists attack the Britannian soldiers, Lelouch talks to Shirley on the phone. After learning the situation, he decides to aid the terrorists in their fight against Britannia. His first order of business is to help Colin escape from Jeremiah, so after saving Colin, Lelouch offers her and the rest of the terrorists the Sarlins from the train. He intends to lead them to victory in this battle. Thanks to Ogi, everyone gets on board and prepares to fight Britannia. And their first act is to take out the soldiers that Clovis ordered into the area. During this commotion, Mario gets into the cockpit of a nightmare frame after a Japanese terrorist abandoned it. He then communicates with Lelouch, follows his instructions to take out an incoming nightmare frame. I love this line right here. It reminded me of something.
I'm Batman. I'm a Mario. I'm Batman. I'm a Mario.
Mario and Lelouch agreed to work together even though both Lelouch and Mario suspected the identity of the other based on their voice. But Mario doesn't care because he acknowledges Lelouch's ability to flawlessly predict outcomes on the battlefield, and it doesn't matter who leads him as long as it'll help him destroy Britannia. Clovis freaks out and breaks the encirclement, which leads to an epic moment from the original anime. This leads to Clovis's back being against the wall, so he asks Lloyd if his Lancelot will win. Lloyd guarantees it, and thus Clovis allows the Lancelot to join the battle. Ogi during this time told Lelouch that they captured the Britannian forces, and then Lelouch responded that they must now capture the enemy commander. Eventually, Ogi agrees to do this. We then get the first scenes of the Lancelot with a great 3D animation recreating the moments from the anime. Suzaku attacks everyone, defeating them with ease. Throughout this, both Lelouch and Mario hear the chatter from the terrorists that Suzaku takes out. Through Mario, we learn more about the situation, including the possibility of Britannian air support being a factor. Then Colin sends an SOS for anyone to help out Lelouch, since that's where the Lancelot was headed. Mario answers the call. He gives Lelouch enough time to escape in a cool cutscene. Eventually, Suzaku takes out Mario, forcing him to eject. But due to a mechanical failure, the parachute doesn't work. Out of concern for Mario, Lelouch attacks Suzaku using his nightmare frame. Lelouch then escapes from Suzaku like he did in the original anime, then boards the G1 base off screen. Mario around this time awakened in the G1 base after some Britannians rescued him, and they did this because he ejected without a parachute. Mario lied that he couldn't open the cockpit from his end because it's damaged, so the maintenance guy left the hangar to get some equipment, which gave Mario a chance to escape. While roaming around in the base, he contemplated killing Clovis to avenge the children, but then he hears Clovis call for a ceasefire, because at that same time, Lelouch threatened him with a gun. This saved the lives of all the terrorists in the warehouse. Lelouch then reveals his true identity to Clovis and unknowingly to Mario as well. Mario figures out that Lelouch was also the person on the communicator and a prince of Britannia. Lelouch used Geass on Clovis when he didn't like the answers he was giving him on what exactly happened to Marion, his mother. After he provided him with limited information on his mother's killer, Lelouch declared that you can't change the world without getting your hands dirty, and thus killed Clovis. He then flees the scene when hearing Lelouch coming over. Lelouch doesn't find Mario, but does find the blue crane. By passing as a Britannian, Mario safely returned to the settlement. Clarice expressed relief upon Mario's return. Mario then tells her that she doesn't have to pretend to be his mother before going to his room. Once he gets there, it all hits him at once. Mario cries for the children he couldn't save, again calling himself a coward, and the chapter ends. The title for the chapter is named Awakening of Vengeance, an appropriate title that foreshadowed events to come, as it refers to both Mario and Lelouch, who start their quest of vengeance in this chapter, and it's brilliant how those two branches intertwine. The first chapter of Lost Stories covered Stage 1, Stage 2, and the beginning of Stage 3. They cut out scenes from those episodes or alter the order of events. This helps to keep the focus on Mario, as he is the main character of this story. The first chapter follows the original anime's example by brilliantly introducing us to the protagonist of this story, getting us to speed by explaining his motivations and desires. They did this through some simple exposition, but then solidified with his actions. One example of this is by showing his experience in the ghetto when helping out the children. It revealed the glaring differences between the Britannians and the Japanese post the creation of Area 11, which is also reflected in Mario as a person. He's too much of a coward to live as a Japanese, but he's also ashamed to benefit from being half Britannian. They did a much better job here in exploring this dilemma than with Colin, which is a damn shame. The introduction of Mario and these children increased the weight of Clovis's orders. Before this, we only saw the deaths of random people besides Nagata, but here we have a ground level perspective, making Clovis's actions even worse. As a result, this only made Lelouch killing him more justified and further justifies Mario's hatred for the Britannians. But the impact wasn't only the death of these poor children, as it awakens something in Mario. He experiences call to action, thus putting aside his cowardly ways to fight Britannia. You really feel for Mario's struggle in both his identity crisis and coping with the loss of these children. They were his salvation in making a difference in this world. With the loss of his family, identity, and name, just like Lelouch, he's living a lie, the lie of living. So these children served as something to connect him to his previous life, but that severed connection nearly destroyed his soul. I like the parallels in that both Lelouch and Mario started their journey in destroying Britannia from one simple yet horrific order to purge the Shinjuku ghetto. It was brilliant how they put Mario in a similar situation as Lelouch, but with a completely different context. Based on the flashbacks, there's so much more we don't know about Mario, and I can't wait to learn more. Yes, I'm playing the Japanese version, but I can't read Japanese, so I'm still missing things. This is again why I was excited for the global release, to finally get the chance to experience the story of Lost Stories, pun intended. Another nice thing about this game is that they're adding new content to the story, not just from the extended universe, but also within the episodes themselves. We saw many examples of this in this chapter, and while I don't think they were necessary, it's still nice to see the creators going back through their work and adding some nice moments. My favorites are Jeremiah and Colin's new dialogue, or how they change parts to incorporate Mario. And Mario himself doesn't change the outcomes, rather he does something in place of someone else. For example, he saved Lelouch instead of Colin. I like this this element of the story, and it's going to make future chapters more interesting. Now, while I do like the new additions, it's then unfortunate to mention that they also cut stuff from the original anime, including key moments that you need to understand later parts within the chapter. The worst example had to be keeping the Lancelot's pilot identity a secret. To do this, Suzaku is never shown by the Lancelot or his conversations with Cecile or Lloyd. This makes no sense since later on, when the story gets to stage 5, Suzaku talks to Lloyd and Cecile about the Lancelot as if they've been working together all this time. So why keep this a secret if there wasn't a grand reveal for it? It wouldn't harm future events if they followed the original anime. Maybe they didn't want to spoil it for the new fans, but that doesn't work either because they already revealed that Zaku was the pilot in the tutorial of the game. Also, I'm going to assume that most people playing this game are a fan of the original anime, so obviously that can't be it. By removing these parts, you can't get the complete Code Geass experience, which means you still have to watch the original anime. This isn't the biggest problem since most people playing this game already know the story. I hope they at least don't do this with the parts from the extended universe. So far it seems okay. But back to Mario, I hope they can explain later on how he can pilot a nightmare frame without any prior experience. Suzaku was at least a soldier, an athletic god, and Colin was practicing before, but we don't have any context as to how Mario could skillfully pilot a nightmare frame without any prior experience. I'm not going to be too harsh here because I'm sure they will explain it, and they should have added more context behind how Mario even got that Sarlin to begin with. Originally, I thought I'd missed something, but it turns out that's just how it was written. A plethora of questions come to mind here. Was Mario near the train this whole time? Did anyone see him pilot the nightmare frame? And how did Mario even know to look for one? You can kind of figure out what happened from what they gave us, but since they showed how Lelouch got a Sarlin, there's no excuse to not show how Mario got one as well. If you ignore the obnoxious amount of changes from the anime, then the chapter was great. There's going to be some interesting interactions to come between Lelouch and Mario. Also, the voice acting is again on point, and the 3D animations work for this game and easily surpass the garbage that was Janissary code. To be fair, that's not saying much. I am excited though for what's to come, and if you are too, then don't forget to subscribe for future videos like this. By the way, on my other channel, I uploaded every chapter so far released in the global version, and here's a playlist where you can watch all of those right now.